maybe they were right. So we got destroyed today. Carolina Panthers go up to New England and get absolutely destroyed, right? And before the game, there was a clip that was floating around from 98.5, the Sports Hub in Boston, where they talked about our 30-point win against the Falcons. Here's what they had to say.
That idea of keeping them on a pitch count, and then if it's third down and you want them to play Tet McMillan because he's really their only option, and you could even give him some safety help and probably still be fine across the board, because this Panthers offense, guys, is just, I mean, they've got an argument for the least talented team in football. I truly believe that. 30-point win last week, notwithstanding, like, I've never had less respect for a 30-point victory in the NFL in my life than that game last week. Did you watch any of that game or see any of the highlights or anything?
Yeah, and it's a phony win.
I tell you, I wanted us to win this game so bad just because I cannot stand the smug arrogance of hearing someone say that our win was fake. There are no fake wins in the NFL. None. But the better question that was asked here is, are we the least talented team in football? The answer to that is no, we are not. What is the answer? Well, I think it's multifaceted. I'll start here. I think that the team suffers from two different things. One, a lack of effort sometimes and a lack of inspiration. And two, belief. So let's start with the inspiration part. I often hear Dave Canales talk about the fundamentals, getting back to the basics, getting back to the fundamentals of football, right? But to me, what's more important than the fundamentals is, do they understand the game plan? I can have all the fundamentals down. Tackling, tracking, doing all those small things, right? But do they understand the game plan fully? Are they completely bought into the concepts? Do you know what to do to pivot when the defense shows you something different? Because clearly the answer to that is no. The scripted first series looked amazing. Went right down the field, caught us all off guard just like everybody else. Man, I'm telling you, if things get better, if they keep going like this, I'm tweeting, all kind of stuff like that. Man, this is going to be amazing. And then we fall flat, right? So then the next question about that is belief. Do they believe in Dave Canales? Is that why the lack of effort is there? Do these guys need to be pushed a little bit harder? Is that why the lack of effort is there? But here's a question that I'm sure many of you have been wondering if I would ever say anything about, right? Because I'm not delusional. I may seem that way. I am a fan. Fan is short for fanatic. So we all are delusional if we're just going to call a spade a spade. But my question would be, do they believe in 9? Do they believe in the quarterback? Is this our guy? Can this guy take us to the next level? I would say maybe yes and no, right? Why? I'd say yes from some of the things that they've seen. I would say no from some of the things that they've seen. One thing I used to love about watching Cam Newton is that even though the completion percentage was, sub 60%, you got the rushing touchdowns on the ground, you got the rushing yards on the ground. The one thing that you could not deny is that Cam was unequivocally the emotional leader of this team. And I think at certain positions, the CEO position, you have to be. And I know we talk about this ad nauseum, right? But even when things don't necessarily go so well for you, you have to be able to pull up everybody else. I do not see that from Bryce, right? So then you ask yourself a question. Well, then it's got to come from somewhere. Where's it coming from? Derek Brown had a quote about whether or not this team was player-led, right? I think that you need a guy like a Wilkes, because there's a reason that a team that had won one game went on to go 7-10 and almost compete for a playoff spot, because Wilkes is a completely different type of player. I'm well aware of hearing San Francisco players talk about how tough he was as a coach with them being in a Super Bowl, right? And actually having a better defense, like statistically, than they did with D'Amico Ryan the last time they were in the Super Bowl. So I found that fascinating. Some younger guys, and some older guys too, it's not just a younger guy thing, don't like to be coached hard like that. But I just believe in order for you to set a specific culture, you have to do that. I've talked about this often. Jimmy Johnson. Man, I'm watching the Jerry Jones documentary, The Gambler and His Cowboys. And Jimmy Johnson was so tough on these guys that when they did something right, they felt good about going to Jimmy because he would then lift them up. What was the drawback from that, though? What was the thing that they struggled with, especially a guy like Troy Aikman, when Barry Switzer took over and he had more of your Canales-style approach, where it was more, hey, guys, I'm going to be hands-off. I want the players to kind of lead these things and stuff like this. I want you guys to lead your position groups. And, yes, you do want to give autonomy. These are not children. These are grown men with families, right? But at the same time, when things get low, if you're in the military, some of my military people out here will relate to this, right? I don't think that you'll rely on the soldiers, like literally on the ground in the front, to make some of the hardest calls that you have to make. They've got earpieces, they got command, and that chain of command continues to go up and up and up until you get to the office of presidency, right? There's a reason for that. Because certain people in certain positions have to make certain calls. I feel like when I watch this team, I don't see people, I see guys just kind of walking around aimlessly. Who's making the call? Is everybody that afraid of the guy that stands up in the office up top with the last name Tepper? Because if that's the case, then you may as well buckle up, Panther family, because it's going to be like this for as long as he's the owner. And if he were to listen to any of us, I would hope that he would get to a point and realize, if that's me, if I can self-reflect and say that is me, if I care about this enough, right? I will stand out of the way and allow you to do you. Not just, hey, let me move out of the way and let you pick personnel. Let me move out of the way and let you coach. But let you coach hard. When the guys that come to you that you picked, the guys that you liked, maybe number 9, right? And you say, hey, man, we got to work on deep ball accuracy. That there won't be I'm getting a call from upstairs, a page from upstairs. Man, you need to take it easy on Bryce, or take it easy on Derek, or take it easy on whoever. No, let me say what I got to say. Even if that leads up to, unfortunately, maybe going back to the bench. Now, am I saying that this is all on Bryce? No. I'm not saying that. You guys know how I feel about Bryce. You know that I want Bryce to be successful, right? But when I look around this locker room, I do wonder if some of these guys, now, this isn't an excuse for these guys to play at a low effort level, but I do wonder if some of them are having these conversations off camera, to themselves, like hanging out with, whoever their, favorite teammate is, or the guy that they, connect with the most or whatever, thinking like, man, despite our best efforts, it's not enough. It don't matter what we do. It's not going to be enough because we don't trust what he can do there to push us over the edge. Now, I know many of you might think like, man, I can't believe you are saying this of all people. In a way, I can't either. But there's just things that I can't ignore, right? And I'm not saying that it can't change. You would hope that it would, right? But do I believe what that gentleman said in that video about us being the least talented team in football? I do not. I think there is more here and more left to be desired. A lot more left to be desired. But somehow or another, they've got to figure it out. I will be here tomorrow. If you guys want to come through, Mint Street Mondays, click this link right here. I'll be here tomorrow going over all of the things that, a little bit deeper analysis of what we saw from the game, some more in-depth conversation with my co-host, Brad. I'm looking forward to that. It's hard to do this sometimes. I'll be honest with you. I love being a content creator. There's nothing more I love in the world other than God, right? But it is hard to do this sometimes because this has been happening for so long. And I think in my heart of hearts, the reason why I want this thing to work with our quarterback, with our coach, is because it is extremely difficult to blow everything up and start over again. And it's even more difficult to find the right people to bring in because if you're doing this again, then you are left with the Canaleses of the world and hope that one of those guys just happened to get enough development to come in and say, you know what, I can turn this thing around. But either way, man, it's going to be always and forever. Keep pounding. I got nothing else to say, y'all. Have a good night.